So let's say that we don't want the description of the album to be the same as the title of the album. For example, sometimes the user would input the album name, and instead of writing a description for the album, he or she would simply use the name of the album as description. So let's say we don't want that to be allowed, and we want the title and the description to be different. So we cannot just use attributes, because we need to compare the title and the description first. So we will use IValidatable Object instead. And we will use that in order to do the comparison as well as display custom error message for us. So in order to use the IValidatable Object, in our album for creating DTO, we will inherit from IValidatable Object. We have the namespace in, but since it's an interface, we need to implement the interface. And it only has one method, which is validate. So the method validate expects only one argument, and that's validation context. And validation context describes the context in which a validation check is performed. And we want to perform a check for the title and description. So it's a matter of simple if statement, and we want the title to be different. So if the title equals the description, then we throw an error. And the validation error is a yield that we will return. And we will return new validation result. And here we can provide our custom message. And since we are comparing title and description, if an error occurs, then we can simply say that the title and description needs to be different. So that is our custom message. And we can pass in a member's name, which is an IEnumerable of members' names. And this is a list of member names that have validation error. And the validation error is on our album for creating DTO. So we will create a new array, but it will have only one member, and that's our album for creating DTO. But here you could add multiple classes if the error was coming from multiple classes. So we'll simply pass in the album for creating DTO. Alright, so let's test this. So I'm going to create album with title, some title, and I will also use the same for the description. So now title and description matches. So let's try to create the album. And we get 400 bad requests, that is correct. And here is the title and description need to be different message. And you can see the error occurred on album for creating DTO. Now let's try something else. Let's say the description and the title will be the same, but they both will be too long. So now we have two different errors. We have the title and description being the same, as well as the title being too long and description being too long. So let's send this. And we get 400 bad requests, that is correct. And you can see that it says now the field title must be a string or array with maximum length of 200, and the description has the length of 400 as maximum allowed. So it doesn't actually show us the error that the title and description are the same. And that's because the validation attributes take precedence. So if the validation fails on any of the attributes, then we will simply show the error there and the program stops right there. So this is our validation. But there is an alternative to this, because right now we didn't actually use the validation context at all. It's passed into this method by default, but we simply did a comparison and yielded a validation result with a custom message. So next, let's go one step further and use the validation context in a class level input validation with a custom attribute.